Hello and welcome to Fernbank Science Center's The Sky This Week for March 7th through 13th, 2021. We have some bright planets in the early morning sky, a new moon at the end of the week, and we have a time change turning clocks forward for daylight saving time on Saturday the 13th. Starting in the early part of the week, face the north part of the sky just after the sun goes down. If you can't remember which way is north, figure out which way the sun rises for your observing spot. Put your right shoulder toward the sunrise place, and your nose will be facing north. Pretty high, about halfway up the sky, there's a bright pattern of stars, the Big Dipper, 7 fairly bright stars, a cup shape, and a handle. At this time of year, the Dipper is standing on its handle over there toward the northeast part of the sky. The 2 stars on the end of the cup or the bowl point to Polaris, the North Star, not the brightest star in the sky, but pretty famous. And the North Star is on the end of the handle of the Little Dipper, a much fainter and smaller on the sky pattern of stars. Now remember, when you're outside looking up, the sky is way bigger than this screen, so the Big Dipper stretches across a big part of the sky, still points to where the North Star is. By the next evening, if you're looking in the same place, the Big Dipper, if you add in the lines and names, the Big Dipper is part of Ursa Major, the big bear. Here's her nose, her toes, her tail. North Star, still on the end of the Little Dipper. And in between, the tail of Draco the dragon. Talked about him last week. The next evening, let's face toward the south part of the sky and look for some of the winter stars and some of the leftover spring stars. We've been looking at Sirius, sometimes called the dog star, brightest star we can see from anywhere on the Earth at night. It looks, when you find it on the sky, it's not going to look like a big round splotch like this. It will be tiny like the other stars, but very bright. It's fairly close as far as stars go. Sirius is in a line with the 3 stars on Orion's belt. There are 2 stars for shoulders, 2 stars for knees down here. That belt continues up, pointing to the reddish star Aldebaran, part of the face of Taurus the bull. Don't mix him up with Mars, a little bit higher on the sky, about the same brightness and about the same pinky color. 2 stars that look like twins for the Gemini twins, Castor and Pollux. Another star also exaggerated in size, Procyon, part of the little dog. And this whole band of stars, the wintertime stars, we're right at the edge of winter and spring. This backwards question mark handle of an old-fashioned umbrella is the head of Leo, the lion. And in between springtime Leo and fall twins, there's a faint pattern of stars called Cancer the crab. Zoom in a little bit, add in lines and names, and Cancer kind of looks like a firecracker there in between Leo and the Gemini twins. If you zoom in a little closer to Cancer, while the stars are not very bright, and in the pictures might give you an idea of what the crab is supposed to look like. Here's Orion with his knees and belt and shoulders and the eye of the bull. The Gemini twins, Castor and Pollux. The backwards question mark for Leo the lion. And in between lion and twins, Cancer the crab. You notice how faint those stars are. But if you have a pair of binoculars, try those on a little cluster called the Priscipe Cluster, or sometimes called the beehive cluster. It looks like a swarm of bees all together in the sky. Try to find it without all the lines and names, might be a little trickier. So find Pollux, one of the Gemini twins. Find Procyon from the big dog, from the little dog, and find Leo over on this side. And in between, Cancer the Crab and Priscipe Cluster. As the week goes along, we'll have a waning crescent moon to watch, pretty in the early morning sky. On the 9th, at about 6 in the morning, the waning crescent moon, just an eyelash, is right near a couple of bright big planets, Saturn and Jupiter. And if you're really lucky and have a flat, dark, clear eastern horizon, tiny Mercury is really near the horizon on that morning as well. By the 10th, the next day, the moon will be an even thinner crescent, just a tiny pencil mark on the sky. Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury. They're lined up like this, again, if you have a really clear, really dark, flat eastern horizon. If you could see them sort of face on that morning, Saturn is the highest of the three, Jupiter, then Mercury. Here's our eyelash moon. Now remember, these are not going to look like big blobs like this. On the real sky, they will look like bright stars. Jupiter probably the brightest, Saturn next, and Mercury kind of fading down toward the east. Facing the south part of the sky, opposite north, at 7:30-ish on March 11th, we can start looking for another pattern of stars. We've looked already, we've seen Sirius, we've seen Orion, Betelgeuse is one of his stars, Rigel is another one, belt in the middle, Aldebaran, Twins, Procyon in the little dog. Let's make another shape. Connect up those three. And this is going to be a big winter triangle across the southern sky. This is still fairly early in the evening. Sirius is the easy one. It's up pretty high and it's really bright. That star in Orion's shoulder, Betelgeuse, it's a red giant star, way much farther away from us than Sirius is. And lastly, Procyon, that's in the little dog. Those three make a nice big equilateral triangle. Even from my backyard, which is pretty light polluted, I can find those three bright stars in the south part of the sky. A little bit later in the evening, face the northeast. See if you can find where the Big Dipper is, about halfway up on this picture. You see where it is? Here's the cup part. There's the handle. In the early evening, the Dipper's standing on its handle. Later in the evening, it's already swung, so its tail is pointing toward the east, and it's pointing to a bright star called Arcturus. You can find that by following the arc of the Big Dipper's handle to Arcturus, one of the bright stars in Boötes, the herdsman. Once you see that one, you know spring is on its way. Toward the end of the week, the moon is gone from our early morning sky. The planets are still there, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury. One of our summertime constellations, Scorpius, the Scorpion, stretches across a big piece of sky, almost half up from the sky, across the south part of the sky for the Scorpion. And it's also the end of the week and the end of the moon cycle. We have a new moon on March 13th, 5:21 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's also the end of Eastern Standard Time. Daylight saving time begins on March 13th. Actually, technically it's on the 14th. 2 o'clock Sunday morning is when daylight saving time officially begins. Not very many people stay up that late or get up that early to change their clocks. And this has absolutely nothing to do with astronomy and the sky. Earth continues to rotate and orbit just the same as it always has. It'll be the same tomorrow as it was yesterday, spinning around. This is purely a human invention. Apparently, it keeps human activities lined up with where the sun is or how much light we have in the sky. So remember to turn clocks forward 1 hour, either Saturday night or really early Sunday morning. And thank you very much for listening. Please do visit Fernbank Science Center's website, www.fernbank.edu. Keep an eye on our Facebook page, Friday night virtual planetarium programs continue with new information and the latest information about the Perseverance rover on Mars and other activities. Have a great week.